Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of RICO'S Garage, where today we're essentially working with a Big Kids Erector set, only there's no instructions and we're going to have to build most of the pieces. The goal for today, we want to mock up that 4BT into that JK. We got a pile of work to do today and not much time because it's a holiday, but let's see how much we can get done today and keep this project moving. We're going to start with the engine itself before we start making motor mounts. I've already done some prep work to the frame yesterday off camera. I'll explain that to you here in a little bit when we get to that point. Right now, there's some things we need to do to the engine to get it ready, and that's where we're going to start. The first thing is this oil pan. This engine currently has a front sump configuration, which is not going to work with where our axle is. The nice thing about the Cummins B-Series engine is things are modular of sort, if you will. And we're simply going to unbolt the pan, drop it down, and turn it around. Now there is another step and another component you're going to need. I'll explain that here in a little bit. Just bear with me. For right now, I'm going to take this pan off, and we also have a fairly large dent in the front, which will soon be the back of our oil pan. I may try to hammer that out while it's off. I don't know yet. All that we're doing today is strictly for mock-up. I bought this engine off of a buddy as a core, with him literally telling me I don't know anything about it. I got it on trade, but he sold it to me right. It's going to need to be gone through, but for now I'm just going to put just enough stuff on it to where we can mock it up, get the engine mounts, get all our clearances, know, as far as intake, exhaust, accessories, all that stuff. We'll get all that figured out, and then when the time comes, we'll pull the engine out, clean it up, tear it apart, see what it needs as far as a rebuild. We'll even, I can't even say it, paint it. There, I said it. We're even going to paint it up nice. I know it's rare for me, but we're going to do it. But anyway, let's get this pan off, then I'll show you the other part to swap the oil pan around. Okay, after removing what seemed like 117 10mm bolts, the pan's down. The good news is it looks pretty clean in there. If you're going to go swap your pan like we are here, there's one more component you're going to need. This oil pickup. You need a different part number for when you move your sump to the rear. I currently don't have that. I'm going to put it on the list of parts to order. Like I said, for now, this is just going to be for mock-up. So at this point, all I'm going to do is just pull the tube off, run the bolts back in so we don't lose them, and then we'll put our pan back on in the rear configuration. I need a rag. This is getting messy. I may have spoken too soon. Once I took the pan over there where I had some more light, there's quite a bit of bearing material in there. Like I said earlier, I bought it at a price point to where if it needed rebuilt, no big deal. We're still money ahead. Also, the dent in that oil pan, pounding it out is just going to probably cause more damage, maybe even potentially make it worse. So we'll add an oil pan to the parts list. But for now, none of that is going to stop us for what we're doing today because we're strictly doing mock-up. We just wiped out the pan, pretend we didn't see that for now. We'll bolt it back up on there. It's got a dent in it, but hey, if something happens, cherry picker slips, jack moves out of the way, engine drops, no big deal. We just smashed our already smashed oil pan. So I'll get this bolted on, then we'll move on to the motor mounts. Now we're going to move on to installing the engine side motor mounts. This doesn't want to play nice. For that, we are going to use second gen Dodge mounts. These are 94 to 98, I believe. I don't know 98.5 when they went to the 24 valve. If they went to a different style mount or not, I don't know. I can't say. But I use these on my square body Cummins swap, and I think they'll work pretty good for this application. One nice thing about these is you have a 4-bolt pad right here. The mount uses 3 bolts, but you can install these forwards, backwards, or you can also swap them side to side to raise and lower them because of the taper they have on them. So I'm going to play around with these a little bit. I'm going to try at first having the mount pointing down, which will raise the engine. I'm going to try that first. But I can also move it back. So let me study on this for a little bit, and I'll let you know what I come up with. Our first attempt at using these 2nd gen Dodge mounts, we're going to go with them in back and down configuration. That may put our engine up too high, in which case if it does, we'll just swap them side to side. I originally wanted them forward, but we're going to have clearance issues with our oil filter on this side and our power steering pump and injection pump on the other side. So we'll try this configuration first, and then we'll go from there. We'll install our engine to bell housing adapter. For this application, we're going to be using a Chrysler automatic transmission, 518, I believe. Yeah. Anyway, the 4BTs had many different adapters: GM, Chrysler, SAE, all different kinds of applications. But for this one, we're going to use the Chrysler. This is the factory adapter off of a 12 valve. That is a bolt that just went careening across the floor. For now, I'm just going to bolt it in with 4 bolts just to mock it up. Well, that's close. That's really close. This is why we mock stuff up. And this, boys and girls, is why we mock stuff up, okay? It has become apparent to me that my original thought of using 2nd gen Dodge truck mounts is not going to work with this application. When I was pre-fitting everything, I was really concerned we was going to run out of room with our injection pump that you can clearly see has to go right here because of these lines. And then our vacuum pump and our power steering pump, there just physically wasn't enough room. So I thought, no problem, we'll turn the mounts around. Well, this hole right here is where the starter needs to go. Right now there's a motor mount where the starter needs to be. How are we going to have a motor mount where the starter is going to be, Rico? Well, we're not. So these are not going to work. We're just going to have to put them on the shelf and save them for another day. Okay, plan C or D, I'm not even sure where we're at. This is an isolator off of the P30 bread truck that had the 4BT in it originally. We're going to try to use this style isolator. This is a pretty good mount from what I understand. Does quite a bit for reducing vibration. These are not new by any means, but they will work for mock-up. And then if we need to get some replacements down the road, we will do that. The only problem is, this is all I have, is the isolator. The frame mounts we knew we was going to have to make anyway. I don't have anything for the engine side. So, where I'm going to start is I will just make a piece of flat plate right here to capture these 4 bolt bosses, and then see where it lands in relation to the frame. And we'll build, once we have it in the chassis, we will build an outrigger, if you will, come off this plate and then come off the frame plates, because I've already made reinforcement plates for the frame. I made those yesterday. I'll show them to you a little bit later. But essentially, you just picture it, flat plate, outrigger, capture this stud, another outrigger, if you will, off the frame, capture this stud, we'll brace it and everything, and go from there. And if that don't work, we'll do something different. So, yeah, let's get some cardboard and make a template. Okay, step 1 in building your template, get you a tape measure. Like I said, we're going to capture these 4 bolt bosses right here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of eyeball an idea what I want. 4-inch would be perfect. 4-inch. Looks like a 4x6 square will do us just fine. So first step, we're going to cut us out a 4x6 square of some poster board. So let's go over to the bench and do that. Go over to the local dollar store, Wally World, whatever you like. Just get you some poster board. I cut my 4x6 piece. Going to set it here roughly where I want it. Take your hammer, hammer around your bosses. Damn it. Try not to move it like I just did. Now, your holes are marked. Perfect. Sometimes things just work out. I already have several pieces of this 4-inch wide, 1/4-inch flat bar in stock. So I'll just mark me 2 pieces, mark my holes, drill them, cut them to length, and we'll be in business. About time something started going right. Let's put that where we want it. Mark that. Err a little bit over this way. Okay, They make fancy tools, hollow punches, they're really not that fancy I guess you'd say, that would cut that circle out perfectly. I don't have one, so as usual I'm going to improvise. And I'm just going to take my transfer punch, position it right in the center of the hole, give her a little whack. The transfer punch doesn't leave a very good mark, so we'll just take our spring-loaded center punch, give her a couple hits. So I'm not chasing around small pieces. I'm going to go ahead and drill this while it's long. We'll put it over the drill press, drill 8 holes, then we'll cut it off in our cold saw. Drill press going hot. I guess there's nobody else here. Doesn't really matter. Let go! Let go! Like old H.I. McDonough, got me a job drilling holes in sheet metal. Today on Rico's Garage, I try to drill holes while you point and laugh. PPE! If you're new to the slow speed cut-off saw, like this one, make sure you wear hearing protection and face shield, because this thing throws chips and it makes noise. Okay. Somebody stole the battery. Not going to get real fancy. Just want to see how they're going to bolt up. Let's see if our CAD template transferred to steel worked out for us. One bolt, 2 bolts, 3, and 4. Run the bolts in just to make sure. There we go, bolted up. CAD didn't let us down again. So now we'll take this off, round the corners, dress it up a little bit, get that mill scale off there, so when we weld our outrigger, we're welding the nice clean metal. Yeah. On, off. That's just the way this stuff goes. The more and more I sit here and think about this, I'm going to have a starter. Maybe even a power steering pump. I've got the vacuum pump, but I don't have the power steering pump. So I'm going to have to get, I can bolt that in, bolt the power steering pump in, put the starter in there. We're going to run out of room real fast. Whenever you're fabricating stuff like this, take the time to round off your corners. Dress up your edges. It just looks so much nicer, so much more professional. Cue the grinding music. Here we go. Now some of you may argue that it's a lot of extra labor to go through the trouble of cleaning off all that mill scale. but I'm here to tell you it will make your weld so much nicer. So take the time to dress everything up. To give you an idea, kind of what I'm thinking, just more or less thinking out loud here right now, but once I get my starter and my other accessories, probably do something like this 2-inch channel. Come off of here, you know, depending on how much real estate our starter takes. Come off like so, out however far, drill a hole for that isolator, and then put some gussets in, or we'll just have to see what kind of room we got to work with. But yeah, that will probably work for that side. And then for the frame side, just using this for reference, we'll probably go with like a flat plate with some 45 gussets. I don't think there's much else we can do today. Dang it. I figured I might as well climb in here and give you a clue what we plan on doing with the frame side. You can see earlier I cut off the factory mount and then dressed this up. I made these plates to mount right here on the frame because this frame is pretty thin. So we'll put that in place, weld it around, and then we're going to have to build off of here for something to mount our insulators to. Unfortunately, in the words of Bruce Springsteen, today's just been a lot of 1 step up and 2 steps back. It's kind of unfortunate we had to scrap the Dodge 2nd gen mounts, but we'll get through it. So I'm going to get off of here, track down a starter and a power steering pump. When I see you tomorrow, I'll let you know where we're at, and we'll go from there. It's the next day, as far as you're concerned. It's not necessarily tomorrow, but it is the next day that we're working on this because, well, we ran into some debacles getting parts. When I left you, we were going to start fabricating the engine mount for this side, and I realized that we was going to lose some real estate to the vacuum pump, power steering pump, and the starter. So I needed to round up those parts before we could go any farther. The vacuum pump I had in stock from another project, no problem. I know it needs resealed. I've got the reseal kit. We'll do that later because right now this is just for mock-up. The power steering pump, easy enough. Went to the local O'Reilly's, sourced one for a 2nd gen Dodge. No problem, bolt that all on there. We're ready to go. When it came to the starter, I had nothing. This engine came as a core, as I told you before. I had no extra starters from my crew cab project, which it wouldn't work anyway because it has the bread truck GM adapter on it. We're using the Dodge in this application. I talked with my buddy Jerry, who's a Cummins guru, and he told me that the 1st gen, which is 89 to 93, and the 2nd gen, which is 94 to 98 and a half. 98 and a half, they went to the 24 valve, and that's I can't comment on that. I don't know, don't care. Comment down below if you know the difference in them starters. Regardless, those 2 starters are clock different, which would probably help with our motor mount situation. The only thing is, he couldn't remember, because it's been a while since he messed with one, whether the 1st gen starter will work on the 2nd gen adapter plate. We know for a fact this is a 2nd gen adapter plate because the adapter, the flex plate, and the transmission all came off the same truck. They were all working together. We know that's good. The difference I learned from talking with him is the 2nd gen adapter plate is thicker to compensate for the lockup torque converter. So we're not sure if that has anything to do with how the starter is going to react. The only thing we could come up with is he had a 1st gen core. I went to O'Reilly's and got a 2nd gen reman starter. We're just going to bolt them up with this flex plate while it's out here where we can work on it and see which one works. I really hope the 1st gen works because it's clock different and just playing with it off camera. It's going to give me a lot more clearance, but for some reason nobody on the internet or YouTube in my 10 minutes of research could give me a definitive answer, so we're just going to figure it out and bring you along as it goes. So the first thing I'm going to do is bolt up this first gen starter and test and see if it will actually engage with the flex plate. 10 millimeter 12 point is what makes those bolts special. You don't have enough clearance to put just a regular metric bolt in there. I don't know offhand what the thread pitch is, and right now I really don't care. That's bolted up. Grab our handy Gerber here, give the Bendix a pull. It ain't gonna work. Let me bring you in here and show you. Try to light that up for you best I can. There's our flex plate, obviously. This is our Bendix. If we take and grab a hold of Bendix, you can clearly see it comes out and it doesn't even come close to engaging the starter. If we were to bolt that in, hit the key, we'd just have a spinning starter and we'd be very aggravated because we built the motor mount to go around that starter that doesn't work. So we're going to have to use the second gen. Let me get it bolted on and I'll show you why I'm not real happy about using it. Before I take this first gen starter off and swap it for the second, I want to show you something. You can see there's our 4 bolt bosses for the motor mount, and I made that smaller plate, but you can see real estate's getting pretty tight here, and once I bolt the second gen in, it's going to get even tighter. So I wanted to show you something before I bolt that second gen starter in. This is the plate that I originally made earlier, and you can see I made it short just to fit just the bosses. And where that starter is going to mount, there's going to be nowhere for the mount to land on this. So what I did off camera is I made a longer plate that's still going to bolt to the 4 bosses, but I've cheated it a little farther forward, actually underneath the power steering pump somewhat. This little notch here clears a brace for the injection pump. My hope is that once this is bolted, and even though the starter is going to cover most of this, I can still sneak some kind of bracket right around this area here underneath the power steering pump. So I'll take that first gen starter off, bolt that plate on, bolt the second gen starter on, and show you what we got to work with. I brought you in for a little closer look, and you can see now our starter motor kicks out to the side. You can see how much different it's clocked. The battery cable is down underneath, which I'm not a big fan of. And this motor is like level with the top of our motor mount plate. We can't build the plate up any higher because we have a fuel pump in the way. And I really don't want to go any lower because we got a battery terminal and stuff there. So, like I said, I cheated this farther forward. Maybe we could come out with a bracket there and catch it. We're just going to have to see what we got to work with. We ran out of room real fast. You can see now there's no way those second gen mounts were going to work at all. We're going to use this go around. We're going to attempt to use the Chevrolet P30 style mounts that they used when they mounted the 4BT in the bread trucks. Has a stud on top, 2 studs on bottom. I apologize, this looks really crude now. I haven't finished it out yet, but we're going to do that next. I took some 4x4 angle iron, made some braces. The plan is weld this against the frame of the JK. I drilled 2 holes. This mount, as soon as I get it lined up, this mount will drop in. We'll mount this on the frame. We'll come off of here with some kind of bracket and tie over to those plates that's on the engine. But before I go any farther, I want to metal finish these pieces. I don't want to put them on there like that. Yes, they would work. but they don't look the greatest, and I just can't have that. Come on over here. I want to show you something. Don't be scared. Come on. Here's one of our brackets after we metal finished it. Like I was saying earlier, round off the corners, smooth out the welds, blah, blah, blah. That's what we started with. Splatter, dust. Now either one, both of these brackets would do the job just fine, but which would you rather have on your vehicle? This one or this one? I think we know the answer to that. Take the time to do some metal finishing. It's well worth it. Okay, so we got our frame mounts all fabricated, metal finished. You can see 2 studs on the bottom here, 1 stud on the top. That will land on the frame right here, weld that. Right now, my tentative game plan is we've got these plates on the side of the block. Let's use this 2-inch wide channel iron. We'll get it wherever it lands on the plate, weld it, come out however long. Once we got the engine in the Jeep and we know, come out however long, cut, drill. That channel iron bolt here, land on this plate, weld, and then we'll make some gussets with however much room we got, and kind of go from there. Of course, the way this project's been going so far, none of that's going to work, and we'll have to completely start over. So now the only thing left to do is to take that there engine sitting on the floor with this here cherry picker, pick it up, swing it over, drop it in. Transmission's already in place, precariously dangling off the transmission jack. We'll get it jacked up and kind of half-ass in place and put that in there, and while everything's dangling at different angles, we'll try to get it bolted together and try to get it to sit still long enough to do some measuring. Should be just fine. Yeah. All right, get in there. And get in there. Guess we're gonna have to do it the hard way. First things first, let's get our transmission jack jacked up, kind of where we want it. Rammed right into the firewall. Should be perfect. Going in the first of 75 different times. Oh, okay, sure. Go ahead and take that off so the torque converter can fall out and fall on my head while I'm under there. That'd be great. Back out. You ain't gonna get nothing done in there. Air me up. At least it only weighs 700 pounds. And doesn't want to roll. That's great. Come on. And go. I mean, Why wouldn't we have this problem? Everything else has been going so great. Back her up, Bill. Okay. We got clearance, Clarence. Yeah. Over that way just a fuzz. Yeah. Bringing her down. This would really be easier with friends. Thank you. Am I even in the shot? I don't know. Oh. Got metal stuff hitting other metal stuff. This is not good. Let's go back a fuzz. Give her a twist. Whose idea was this anyway? Yeah, put a Cummins in your JK. It'll be great. Currently lining up bell housing bolts by myself. If you ever get a chance to do that, don't. One bolt in. Transmission jack right in the way. That's pleasant. Okay. Cherry picker, transmission jack. Rags, Legos. If we lay right here where the coolant drips in our face, yeah. Okay. Good news is it's lined up. Bad news is I lost the wrench. I should have brought you under here with me, but I wasn't thinking about it. What I'm doing is using the two bell housing bolts where the alignment dowels are, drawing it together. When you're doing this, you want to make sure it's going together very easy. If you got resistance, stop. Something's wrong. You're going to break stuff. That's kind of where we want it. Let's drop her back just a little. Down just a fuzz. Come back. You're not coming back. Needs to come back. Like my ex-girlfriend, she ain't coming back. The reinforcement plates are nowhere near where the mounts are going to be. That's great! So the length of this video is already way past what I wanted it to be. The time frame of making the engine mounts, getting the engine placed in this Jeep, we've done blown that to hell. So I'm not going to drag it on any longer. The next who knows how many hours is just going to be me staring at this thing and moving it side to side and taking measurements and checking clearances and a lot of boring stuff that you really don't want to see. You're just interested in the final product, and that's what I'll bring you in the next video. So hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you can see projects like this. Check out some of our other builds. We got a lot of new subscribers. A lot of you are not familiar with the project, so I'm going to make a video as soon as it warms up and show you what we got going on there. In the meantime, I'm going to get this engine set up so we can get these mounts made and get that crossed off the list. You need to work on your project because as much as I appreciate you watching these videos, sitting around and dreaming about it ain't getting it done. I'm Rico, and I'll catch you later.